All right, guys, first things first, I am sorry if that last video seemed a little weird. I literally woke up at like 8 a.m. and decided to record randomly. But either way, we've got new stuff on Notre Dame. We've got numbers coming out. What does the actual Notre Dame situation look like? You know, if they do want to stay an independent, what's their next TV deal? We've also got a potential meeting between many members of the Pac-12 that is kind of an emergency meeting we're going to talk about. But you can see Notre Dame expected to land a big TV deal, remain an independent. According to a report, Notre Dame is expected to land a huge new TV deal. And it says it's going to be around $60 million per year for a new contract, although it is hard to predict how the media business will look 3 years from now. So guys, Notre Dame's deal with NBC doesn't end until after the 2024 season. So they've got this year, 2022, 2023, and 2024, and then they're going to need a new TV deal, and these sources are finally giving us a number. All we've been able to do is speculate. Now we actually have a number, and that number is $60 million, and honestly, it doesn't surprise me at all for an independent school like Notre Dame to draw around $60 million, which will be a massive increase from what their current deal is. Of course, everything's going up nowadays. You take a look at the billion-dollar Big Ten deal, things like that. The important thing to note with these numbers, Notre Dame, if they decide to stay independent in 2024 when they get a new deal, they will be making significantly less than if they had joined the Big Ten. If Notre Dame joins the Big Ten, they're looking at, in the years 2026, 2027, and beyond, well over $100 million per year with a TV deal if they join the Big Ten. If they stay independent, you're looking at 60, maybe 70 million at the most, according to this source. And you can see just a little bit of background on this situation. It says Notre Dame currently makes around $26 million a year with its deal through NBC and its partnership with the ACC. Notre Dame remaining independent would mean there's no need to get out of the ACC deal, which means the Irish would still get over $10 million per year from its deal with the ACC on top of the other numbers. That would reportedly put Notre Dame around $70 million. So not bad, certainly good money, and it's a situation, I've said it over and over, Notre Dame has to make the decision, is the extra 20, 30, 40, 50 million, whatever it is, worth not being an independent? Because we know how much they value being different, being an independent, being Notre Dame. You go into a conference, it takes some of that mystique off of your university, and that's something that it looks like, at least right now, Notre Dame is not willing to sacrifice that for more money, meaning they will stay an independent. But guys, we've got other stuff on Notre Dame and how the Big Ten is negotiating. They're leaving the door open for Notre Dame. That's the best way I can say it. We're going to get to that. As you can see, it also says Notre Dame's current deal with NBC runs through 2024. So there's still a lot of time. Yeah, there's 3 years before Notre Dame would need to be under a new deal. And of course, we know NBC is now in bed with the Big Ten. They've got the 7:30 primetime window. They paid $350 million. And then we've got this that is rather interesting. Arizona has scheduled a special full-day meeting for Thursday of this week in 2 days. Arizona State campus was not previously on the docket until now. I don't know why it says, maybe it is Arizona State, I don't know, but you can see the special meeting scheduled from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., a special board meeting this Thursday. And this could be for anything, but it is very interesting, and that's something to keep in mind as we know the rumored 4 schools that I've said from the beginning, and it looks like the Big Ten wants this to happen before they tap into a West Wing. The Big Ten wants the Big 12 to make a move, and I think the Big 12 would be fine with doing it. Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, Utah, though that's the next, in my opinion, with what we're hearing from the Big Ten, they don't want to be liable in a lawsuit because it looks like if they do steal Washington and Oregon next, it would look like they basically destroyed the conference, meaning they destroyed the Pac-12, and they don't want that. So they're waiting for the Big 12 to tap into the Pac-12, and then they'll go get some of these schools. Take a look at this Big Ten expansion. Here's what the contracts say. If Notre Dame joins the Big Ten within the next 7 years, CBS, Fox, and NBC know exactly how much extra they will have to pay in rights fees. That specific dollar figure, which is not publicly known, is spelled out in the contracts. So guys, they're negotiating these contracts with the idea that there is a significant chance Notre Dame possibly, by the end of their TV contract in 2024, would be interested in joining the Big Ten. And I'm sure Notre Dame knows all the numbers. How much money are we going to make if we join the Big Ten versus being an independent? Is it enough money to digest removing that independent label from our university? And also now, with the playoff expanding to 12 teams, which I think is going to happen before 2025, it becomes even easier for Notre Dame to be an independent and still be really competitive in football. It says no other school is mentioned in these deals by name, and the contracts don't assign a dollar figure to any other school that may join the conference. According to several sources, Notre Dame is the only school that has specific language about escalators. If, say, the Big Ten adds 2 West Coast teams, the networks have agreed to have good faith conversations with the conference about opening their deals and adjusting their rights fees, but the specific increases are not spelled out in the contract language. They are being told that. So in other words, there's an expectation that the Big Ten will expand in the coming years, but the only word-for-word layout we've seen where you know how much more money you're going to make is with Notre Dame. My thought process is the Big Ten minimum is taking two more teams from the Pac-12, whether that's Washington and Oregon, Stanford and California. I think that all hinges on Notre Dame, but minimum, they want to balance the conference better, in my opinion. Having a specific number attached to Notre Dame provides the conference and the Fighting Irish with some certainty for the value of their rights if the Irish do decide to join the Big Ten. That's another thing. It's very transparent. For some other nuggets on the media deals, my colleagues, Michael Smith in this week's magazine, and it says putting the Big Ten's Women Basketball Championship on. Okay, so that's all, whatever all that is. But overall, guys, the thought process here, they're leaving things open in their negotiation to allow Notre Dame to say, this is what you're missing out on. Basically, because they're showing Notre Dame, listen, if you join the conference, you're going to make X amount if you join our conference as opposed to staying an independent. And it just comes down to, is it enough money to really entice Notre Dame to join the Big Ten? And then we've also got this. It says dissolve the political bonds. There is no language in the ACC's bylaws and constitution covering dissolution of the conference other than a standard boilerplate clause about the distribution of property. The North Carolina law governing the dissolution of nonprofits would theoretically apply, requiring only a majority of voting members to agree to it. Notre Dame, for some reason, gets a full vote and not 20% of a vote, even though it only gets 1/5 share of revenue. That has never been sufficiently explained. If it only takes 8 votes to disband the ACC, the lawyers bill a lot of hours arguing such things. There are a couple scenarios that could get there if Notre Dame and North Carolina were ready to jump to the Big Ten. So this is crazy stuff if this is true. I actually don't remember. I think somebody DM'd this to me. They're saying that Notre Dame gets a vote in terms of the ACC dissolving. So we've been thinking, they need the simple majority. They need 8 ACC members to come out and agree to dissolve the conference. I don't know if this is right. Why would Notre Dame get a full vote? I don't consider Notre Dame a member of the ACC at all. I know they face ACC teams. I know they're getting $10 million from the ACC. We just read that a few minutes ago. But if this is true and Notre Dame has say in possibly dissolving the ACC, you would be talking about Florida State, Notre Dame, Clemson. You're going to get to at least 5 or 6 teams that would be ready. And that would be a situation where Notre Dame, wow, that is crazy. If Notre Dame did want to go to the Big Ten, they could have a vote in possibly dissolving the ACC according to this. Now, I was DM'd this. I'm not exactly sure where it's from. It's a lot of legal crap, but that is something that's interesting. And then you can see this. It says Notre Dame is the only school that... So I already read this, yeah. It's just the idea that Notre Dame is the one school that's singled out in these negotiations. If they join the conference, we have an exact dollar amount that this conference will be worth, that Notre Dame will be getting paid, per year. They are the only ones. So there certainly is an emphasis from the Big Ten and from these TV networks to get Notre Dame possibly into the Big Ten. It would make every single member of the Big Ten more money. That's the one problem with the West Wing. You're adding teams. You're really not adding value to the conference. You're actually diluting the conference because now there's more mouths to feed, meaning there's more teams within the conference, and they're not going to add you value. But I think the Big Ten would still make it work because the conference would at least be more balanced. That's the whole idea of adding more schools from the Pac-12 and giving yourself a legitimate 10 o'clock window, which would allow you to renegotiate and possibly even get more money from ESPN maybe coming back into the deal and taking the 10 o'clock Big Ten After Dark window. That is the situation. And then we've also got this. Is the Pac-12 hanging by a thread? In simplest terms, yes it is. It says all of this is occurring as the Pac-12 is still in the midst of their media rights negotiations, but if they lose one more school, you could very well kiss the conference goodbye. Not only are there Pac-12 schools on the radar for the Big Ten, but schools such as Arizona, we talked about that, have all generated interest from the Big 12. The Big Ten continues to be on the offensive side and surging towards 20 teams, while the Pac-12, who is familiar with the tail in between their legs position on some sort of... So yes, the Pac-12, I agree with this individual. There's 2 moves that could happen that could dissolve the Pac-12. The Big 12 move, taking 4 teams, even 2 teams from the Pac-12, or obviously the Big 10 move, and you're talking about the schools going to the Big 10, Oregon, Washington, maybe Stanford and Cal. Any sort of move dissolves the conference. The conference is on eggshells right now, and they're getting screwed out of their deal, their new media deal. That is the situation. We've also got an update on the Big 12's deal. Big 12 is in early negotiations to extend their current TV deal with ESPN and Fox. So Fox is getting in on Big 12 games. That's news to me. It would have the same yearly increases that the current deal has. This may end up being the safest route for the Big 12 to take. It would keep us ahead of the ACC and the Pac-12 as the 3rd highest revenue per school. I don't know how they're going to swing that. Like, the Big 12 have, like, right now, you can say what you want about the ACC. They've still got Clemson. They've still got Miami. They've still got FSU. That would be a major win if the Big 12 was making more money with those teams per year than the... Well, again, that just goes to show you how badly the ACC grant of rights deal needs to be renegotiated, because that shouldn't be a thing. I mean, the Big 12, they've done a nice job. They've added teams. Who is the superpower in the Big 12? They don't have one right now. So the idea that that conference is going to be making more than a conference that has Clemson, Miami, Florida State, even North Carolina is just crazy. But again, that just goes to show you how badly the ACC grant of rights is either going to have to be renegotiated or they will dissolve that conference, possibly with 8 members, possibly Notre Dame with a vote. I don't know if that's true, but that was the thing I just read. So we will see, guys. A lot of stuff going on with the realignment rumors. Notre Dame, they want to be an independent right now, but the Big Ten is showing them how much money they're missing out on if they stay with being an independent. The next big thing for them after 2024, what do? Do they join the Big Ten? Do they stay as an independent and sign a massive deal? You know, maybe a $60 or $70 million deal with NBC exclusively. We will see what happens, guys. But that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.